Welcome to I'm a Survivor of Domestic Violence, Inc., the podcast where we explore the journey of healing and resilience for those affected by domestic violence. I'm your co host, Michelle, and today we're addressing a critical aspect of the recovery process: mental health.
That's right, Michelle. For survivors, the emotional and psychological toll of domestic violence can be just as challenging as the physical scars. Today, we'll be talking about the mental health challenges many survivors face, from anxiety, depression, to PTSD, and why therapy and counseling are such vital tools for healing.
We'll hear from author Mary Ann, who has navigated her own healing journeys to understand the importance of seeking professional help, building emotional resilience, and breaking free from the lasting effects of trauma.
Whether you're a survivor, a support person, or someone interested in understanding the mental health aspects of recovery in domestic violence, this conversation is for you. So let's get started and dive into how we can support the mental well being of survivors at every step of their healing journey.
Thank you so much for coming on I'm a Survivor of Domestic Violence, Inc. today.
Well, thank you for having me on.
Well, we appreciate it.
And, and Marianne, I just want to say, feeling blessed that I'm a survivor of domestic violence, Inc. has such an incredible guest. I'm just like, when I found out you had done over 600 podcasts, I was completely blown away. And I know you say it was only since 2020, but like, thank you for what you're doing. Thank you for your advocating. Thank you for everything that you do and continue to do in our space of helping to bring awareness and keep women and children safe. So thank you.
Well, thank you very much. I started Slam the Gavel podcast September 20th of 2020.
That's
Wow.
great.
That's great. That's
Congratulations.
awesome. That's
It's kept
awesome.
me busy.
I,
Busy is good. Busy is good, right?
Right, right.
It
well,
is.
well, great, Marianne. So we know a little bit about you, but tell our audience about yourself and your great accomplishments.
Well, I took a bad situation and I turned it into something positive that will help others get
Mhm.
through the same situation because a lot of people don't understand this until they go through it.
Mhm.
They will never understand it until, I hate to say it, I don't want anyone to go through it.
Right.
But when I wrote the book, Dismantling Family Court Corruption, Why Taking the Kids Was Not Enough, it was kind of like a little um, book to let people know what's going on, what can happen, what I should have done, what I could have done better. And it is this one here. So it's to help people get through it,
Yeah.
and it's short, and people have gotten through it in one day. So that's good, especially when if you're under a lot of stress from these court systems. You want to be reading a book that's 350 pages long.
Yeah. So obviously you're a survivor and you took your situation and you wrote a book to help
Right.
others and but it sounds like you have a lot more going on with this. So tell us all about
We
you.
want to hear it all, Marianne. We want to hear it all.
Oh, well, I've been writing books. I don't have my other one with me. I After this one, I wrote "Cry Out for Justice: Poems of Truth." It's a bunch of poems I had written, and then that was followed by "Raised by These Wolves: How Family and Federal Courts Are Failing Our Children."
Mhm.
See these wolves? These aren't like the wolves in Twilight. These are the really
Yeah.
nasty wolves. You see what I'm
Oh,
saying?
yeah.
So
Oh, wow.
Nice.
this one came out this past July. Child trafficking within the foster care and court systems. So
Mhm.
what these two are is like a collection of parents' stories, and I'll be doing another one, hopefully be published around the same time. But what these stories are is a collection of what other people have gone through, whether it's foster care or the courts, the family court system, and
Yeah.
it's to show people how their relationships began, what happened in the relationship, how they ended, and to show what kind of personality disorders they were dealing with.
Mm.
Because in our school systems, we're not teaching kids what they really need to know about these personality disorders they may be working for or getting married to.
Mhm.
They
Yeah,
need to know. They need to know.
absolutely. Yep.
Hmm.
That's a big one, and that's definitely out of all of our guests, you are the first one to bring up, personality disorders. There's mental health we talk about, but
Right,
and that's a big thing. So,
right.
It
Because the
really,
person. Go ahead.
no, I was just going to say, please excuse me. I was just going to say, like, you hit the nail with the hammer of the head of the hammer. It's just like, I mean, there's so much going on out there and no one's doing anything. No one, it's just kind of sweeping underneath the carpet and, get a guardian ad litem or get your attorney or, do some counseling, outreach, whatever. They just kind of sweep it and just, they're not focused on the real problems. And that's like a real problem you just mentioned, like a major problem.
mm,
It is. It is. And people don't realize when they're meeting these people, how soon will the mask fall off? When you,
Exactly.
right? I mean, they talk about, well, there's love bombing. Well, not always.
yeah.
I mean, it could take you 15 months to figure it out. And I figured it out within 15 months into the marriage, but I didn't even want to marry him that day. So I always tell people listen to your gut because there were red flags prior to getting to the altar,
Mhm.
but I wasn't paying attention or was making actually, I think people make excuses
Yeah.
for that person. Oh, it's cold feet, or they're nervous, or they're starting a job on Tuesday, and people
Yeah.
make excuses for
Mhm.
behavior that they don't understand.
Right. Or they're blaming themselves or they're ashamed or
Hmm.
yeah. Yeah.
And the coercive, I wanted to speak on, I really, like coercive control is something that I really, my hotline, I get like 1,000 calls a year, and I'd say 60, 70% because they're not educated. Some of them just are so battered down, they don't understand. Then when I explain it to them, I'm like, oh my God, this is what I've been experiencing. And
Right.
then you have people that marry older women and men, vice versa, and they get financially exploited. But it starts out with coercive control, like, oh, you don't need to talk to your girlfriends. I mean, you got me now, it's like, why do you have to have your girlfriends? Like what? And then that's on the that's the man being controlling, but then the woman's like, there are women that are controlling,
Mm-hmm.
and they're saying, why do you have to go out with your friends like and play darts? Like, well, honey, I've been doing it for 12 years, and I know
Mm-hmm.
we're married, but like, so I really want to like bring that out, and I want you to speak on the controlling issues, manipulation, financial exploitation, because I was personally financially exploited for millions, and you
Mm-hmm.
know, I never thought in a million years that it would have happened, but it did. And, I literally suffer with some forms of PTSD. I'm getting better from my experience with what happened to me as a survivor, but I'm over it. But, am I ever going to be really over it? Like we all have skeletons from bad
Mm-hmm.
relationships, domestic violence, and this type of stuff. So, could you kind of just talk briefly on the issues of coercive control, financial exploitation? I'm sure you've experienced. I mean, I know your story, so just
Oh,
give us a
definitely.
minute or two on it. Yeah,
Right. It's the coercive control and the financial abuse is so subtle. They creep it in.
exactly.
Right. Simple things like we were going to get the car washed and then go to my grandmother's. Well, I don't feel like, you're in your Sunday best, getting out of the car and scrubbing it down and then going to my grandmother's. So I said no. He had a fit and then he just drove us back home. So I never got to see my grandmother or my cousin who was in town. Simple, it's a slight thing. The
Yeah.
financial abuse. I was not allowed to buy anything. I was working at that time before we had kids full time as a nurse.
Mm.
And even I was also a med surg nurse and I went into the psychiatric field. I worked there. But if I bought anything, I always bought everything on sale anyway. But what I noticed, not just myself, but what other people do as well, is they'll buy stuff, put it in the trunk of the car, and then bring it in the next morning after the spouse leaves
Mm-hmm.
for work. So I did that for years. Uh, you don't need to live like that.
Right.
It's a subtle thing, and it has to stop.
Yeah,
You know,
it's really the word that I want to use, and I'm sure both of you, I mean, you're both survivors, covertly. Okay, that's the word, covertly. It's
mhm,
like almost like a snake in the grass. Like, oh yeah,
mhm,
well, we don't really have to go to grandma's tonight. We could do it next week, or
mhm,
it's just covertly. It's done, and it's definitely coercive control, and it's manipulation. 101, straight up, nothing more, nothing less. So this podcast, I want everyone to listen to what we're talking about and wake up. If you're in a relationship and you're unhappy, and this is happening, call our foundation line, which is going to be noted, and you can put on a request on our website. And so please just don't keep living in denial, because I lived in denial. I think maybe all of us on this podcast may at one point or another was in some form of denial, because
mhm,
there's a fine line between like wanting to have a relationship work and it's
mhm,
not working out, but before the problems you loved each other and you were together, and then all of a sudden, like, what just happened? Like, it's getting worse and you just don't want it to break, and you don't want to break up because you're like, I got 10 years, 12 years, 8 years, whatever it is, 5 years, 3 years, even 6 months. Everybody takes relationships differently, and they don't want the death of a marriage to happen or death of a relationship, but guess what? They happen. You're not special, and I'm not trying to be insensitive, but you're not special. And if you spend 10, 12, 15 years in a relationship and you're like, what just happened? Well, guess what? You just lost 10, 15, 12, whatever it is, 14 years in a relationship that was a dead end, and you can't really foresee that, but you
mhm,
have to watch and learn and educate and bring, like, you need to really bring something into your mindset. If something's going wrong in your mindset about a relationship, go out, look for like our foundation. I'm a survivor of domestic violence.org. We're out of Las Vegas. Watch our podcast. You'll learn, because we're giving you the tools on these podcasts to kind of say like, wow, that's kind of like a red flag. That episode was great. This is why we're here. We're all survivors, and we're here to bring awareness to women, and maybe you can give awareness to your children as a mom or a dad that's watching the show, you know? And I say that usually when I speak, it's mostly women that are abused, but it's really like a 60-40 split right now. Years ago it was always like 80-90%. It's not accurate. It's around 60-67%. And globally it's different. It's worse. It's much worse overseas, but it's about
Mhm.
that in the States. And I just want to mention that, and I don't mention it enough because there are men that get abused and don't want to report it because they think they're the man. The police come, they may take both parents and then put the kids in foster care. You know what I'm saying? It's a horrific situation. So the problem is if you're getting abused, you got to get out. So you call our foundation or reach out to anyone in your area. So I just wanted to
Mhm.
put that out there.
Yeah. All right. So before we get into our questions, Marianne, can you just let us know where we can find your books?
You can find my books on Amazon, and or they can go on to dismantlingfamilycourtcorruption.com, and they can also get the books that will lead them back to Amazon from there too. So I've
That's
got
great.
blogs on there as well.
Hmm.
Um,
Do you have
I think,
do you have a website, Marianne?
Yeah.
right,
Okay, great.
dismantlingfamilycourtcorruption.com.
You just
Yeah.
say it a few times before you get off. That's great. I just want them to hear it. So,
Okay.
Awesome. All right. Well, I'm gonna get into dig in right now.
Okay.
What are some common mental health challenges faced by survivors of domestic violence, and how can these challenges be addressed effectively through therapy and counseling?
Well, for me, it was PTSD,
Hmm.
the constant coercive financial and legal abuse.
Mm,
And you're constantly in fight or flight mode, which is not healthy.
right.
And, you know, I recommend people talk to a good therapist that understands coercive control and other things that they also need to know of how children are treated with child psychological abuse, because a parent may be having that inflicted on their children as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I think people should see a counselor. And some people need counseling for 3 or 4 months to get through it, or they might be lifers. It's okay.
Hmm.
So,
Yeah, and you bring up children a lot because I think a lot of people forget that the children are involved, or even me, like I think I was blind, like to like, oh, well, it's happening to me, it's not happening to my kids.
mhm,
But like now that they're adults, they've came to me, we've talked, and I see things totally different. But
mhm.
it affects the children, they're seeing that and they can end up in relationships, as adults that they fall into because they saw that with their parents or, you
Right. And that
know.
perpetuates the cycle. And in Dr. Mark Roseman's book, Preserving Family Ties, these generations, it will affect 6 generations to come.
Oh,
So
wow.
if you've battled in family court, it's something that will affect these kids, because the age that they were at, if they were in family court or in foster care, or
Hmm.
taken away from a parent, if that's 12 years old or 14 years old, they will always be that mental age, even though they're 42.
Mm,
They're stuck because maybe they haven't talked to a counselor. The trauma was so bad they can't move forward.
right. That makes sense. Wow.
Yeah, it really is sad, and that's why there's so much dysfunction. And I believe a lot of the dysfunction is caused by the family court system.
Hmm.
When you drag kids through that, and even my judge that I had paraded my kids out in front and had them sit in the jury box. And I'm thinking, why is he doing that? I wondered why. He did a lot of things. I kind of would like to dig into his medical history, um, because he died of pancreatitis, you know what I mean? So I
Hmm.
wondered what drugs he was on while he was running my case. Anyway, when you bring kids into actually a court, that scares them.
Yeah.
even into a courthouse. That's scary as well. They're seeing, men shackled walking down the hallway.
Yeah.
What would a little kid think of that?
Devastating.
Yeah. Traumatic
Right.
PTSD.
Right. I mean, even I saw them, I saw them, but I also remember, like, when I worked on the psych unit, I would see people shackled because the police would bring in people that were really mentally off,
Mhm.
you know. Um,
And a lot of that stems from childhood trauma.
right. That too, or it's genetic, one of the two.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Wow.
Incredible.
Yeah.
Great
So
stuff here. Great stuff we're talking about. Just great stuff.
the thing that when people go through a divorce, I think people need to know they don't have to run into a courtroom. If you can hammer it out yourselves and just treat it like
Yes,
a business agreement.
exactly. Because, marriage is really like, it's like a financial contract almost. It really is when you really look at it, right? I
Mm-hmm.
mean, people say, "Well, I was in love and honeymoon phase," and okay,
Mm-hmm.
let's get through the honeymoon phase. Now, it's really, it's a union of two people that work together, and one may work, one may not. Whatever, maybe they'll both work, and it's really a contract. You acquire property, and you try to keep things streamlined and keep the relationship healthy, and it's not always easy, especially if you rush into a relationship that you don't know who you're rushing into. He may look
Mm-hmm.
good, she may look good, and then you'll start looking closer after 6 months or a year into the marriage or the relationship, and then next thing you know, you're having a child, and you didn't really expect it, but it happens. So it's really, really important for everyone that's listening to this podcast to think and live proactively moving forward in your personal relationships,
Mm-hmm.
for real. This is for the high school kids, college, students, and so on and so forth. I cannot emphasize it enough. Think twice before you act. Live proactively in your personal relationships.
Yeah.
Well, most definitely. I was waiting to get into Sam's Club one morning, and there was an older gentleman, and then there was like a kid that was probably 25. And we were just standing around, and I said, "Any of you has been through family court?" And the older fellow said, "Oh, yeah, yeah." I said, "How much money did you waste?" He said, 58,000. I said, "Okay, where are you at
God.
now?" He said, "Well, we get along fine now. She remarried, and now she's fine." And the kids, the thing is, the kids were so close to turning 18. It's like, why go through that? You know what I mean? And so the young kid, he said, "Well, I'm engaged." I said, "Really? How well do you know your spouse? How long have you dated?" He said, "Oh, probably about a year." I said, "Did you do background checks on her parents and her?"
Yeah,
And,
exactly.
and he said, "Well, no, I'm going to just trust the process." I said, "Yeah, that's what I did. But what you need to do is you need to do background checks to see if anyone is connected to the courthouse, a police department, a fire department.
Mm.
Okay, so if they're connected, what can happen to you is if you get divorced, you will lose your case." I'm telling him all this. And then I said, "What about a prenup? Do you guys have a prenup? Are you talking about that?" And he goes, "Well, no, I don't think we need that." I said, "Well, okay, what if 6 years down the road, let's say you both are getting along great. Great. It's going great. But what if you're in a car accident and she becomes a head injury or you become a head injury and your personalities change? And then what if she doesn't want you to see the kids and she moves back home with her parents with the kids?"
Mm.
Something should be documented in writing in a prenup. Now, I know lawyers can say they can break prenups, but at least you'll have something in writing saying, "Okay, if this happens, we're going to work it out for the kids."
So, Marianne, really, what you're reflecting back to what I said: live and act proactively, because that's
Right.
what you got to do. Put it in writing, and like you said, um, it may not hold up, but it leaves something up for a debate.
Right.
And if it's in
Right.
there and you agree to it, some judges may say, "Well,
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna stay with this," you know,
Right.
because we all know. I hate to say it, but there are some liberal judges and magistrates and judicial officers, and it is what
Mhm.
it is. So we hope for all of you listening to the show, if you're going through domestic violence, family judicial systems or centers, family judicial centers are all over the country, nationally and globally. And I just want to say that, be careful what you say. Make sure you have good litigation. Make sure you interview and do background checks on your lawyers' firms. Sometimes they're affiliated with certain courts and certain judges. And this is
Mhm.
a fact because I've done the research and you know what I'm talking about, Marianne.
Yeah,
As you and I are in the same circle. So it's really important that you do your due diligence. And I'll tell you something else that nobody knows. And Marianne, you're going to love this one. So what I found out is when you have a really litigious family violence case or divorce, and let's say if just motions, contempts flying back and forth, the last thing you want to do as a mother with your children, trying to keep your children in your nest and have the father not use them as pawns and take them away and torment you over the next 5 or 10, 12 years, whatever it is, before they're
Mhm.
18, is you don't want to hire a lawyer that's local to the area that you're
Right.
litigating in, because now you have somebody that's been poisoned. The web of, oh, I know Judge so-and-so, yeah. Oh,
Mhm.
yeah. We got to have a silence. You talk to the DA, talk to the guardian ad litem. Yeah, talk to the psychologist, talk to the child psychologist. I mean, by the time you're done, you'll have all your savings spent. He'll outlawyer you, and it'll be like, what just happened? I'm like, it's crazy. So I'm trying to
Mhm.
again bring awareness and to make you awake of what you need to do when you're involved in, unfortunately, litigation in the United States. It's a lot of underhanded things that are getting done, continue to get done, and it's getting worse by the day. Anything else
Definitely,
you want to add to that, Marianne? I'm sure you do.
definitely. In fact, they all play in the same sandbox. So when I saw us being steered to have the kids have a guardian ad litem, I went through in the city and found out who all the guardian ad litems were. And I went and saw each one of them so I could create a conflict of interest. So if the judge wanted to use her, he can't do it because I already talked to her. Isn't that just too bad?
This is great, Marianne. But we joke about this, right? But
I know it's not it's
let's
no
call a
joke.
spade a spade. No, let's call a spade a spade, right?
Right,
We're
right.
fighting for our kids. We don't want our kids to be with an abuser. We don't want them taken away. I mean, there's so many mums, and I'm speaking for all of you mums out there listening to me nationally and globally. I love you all. Keep fighting for your children. Do not lay down. Do not take it. Fight. Please call our foundation. You can get connected to Marianne. She's a whirlwind of knowledge, and she can steer you in the right direction. And myself, I'm for men and women, and I'm just saying you have to do whatever it has. You have to do whatever it takes, And sometimes I say to people, sometimes you have to do the unthinkable. And I'm not saying in that negative sense. You just got to do things that you don't want to, because when you're fighting and somebody drags you through the mud. My lawyer in my divorce with my ex told me it's time to get dirty, because that's what they're doing.
Mhm.
You're getting dragged through the mud. You can't sit there and say, "Oh my God, I got mud on me. I got to brush it off." No, it's time to get dirty, because if they're playing dirty and you're trying to, I want to do the right thing. Well, I'm not necessarily saying you do anything negative or wrongful. I'm saying you just got to fight the fight, because it's wrongful that these fathers in even in same-sex marriages where they adopt children, they use the children as pawns, Marianne, don't they? It's
Mhm.
sickening.
Mhm.
You're not going to have the kids. You want to divorce me? You're not going to have the kids. They're going to be staying with me, and I'll lawyer you, and this, that, and the other thing. It just makes me so upset, and I just want to bring this all up so people that are out there, this conversation I'm having over in this podcast with my co-host and you, Marianne, this is going to resonate. It's going to
Mhm.
resonate.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Most definitely. That kid I was talking to at Sam's Club, he the look on his face totally changed from being happy go lucky to you know and he said, well, I'm going to go talk to a lawyer, and he left. He never went into the store.
See what I'm
But
saying? Yeah.
uh, and I also added, I said, when you talk to her about a prenup, don't scare the person. It's for their benefit as well. it's saying, well, I'm protecting myself and I'm protecting you. That's what the prenup does. So everybody's protected, and the kids aren't taken away for no good reason.
Yeah.
That's like Marianne. I mean, I got a lot of game, but you got some game. Marianne, you're good. You like, you got to really be like this, like as a mom,
Right.
protecting your loved ones. I mean, it's sad though, isn't it? Sad that we have to almost fight and go into law books and look at old
Hmm.
cases that have been put before certain judges to see if they're like misusing. There's one thing I want to say: judges have they call it discretionary powers. Okay, we all know what that means, right, Marianne?
Hmm.
Discretion, meaning, well, the law, you'll have the lawyer in there fighting for the mother, and the husband's got the big lawyers, and the six of them over in the corner, and the wife's got one. She might have been the one that stayed at home and had savings, but didn't have the money that he has.
Hmm.
And the judge will look at the lawyers and look at the wife and say, okay, we know which lawyer is, who's got the bigger guns. And they'll say, I think that, after really looking at this case, I know that, the kids have been with mom and she's been the caretaker at home. And there was 1, 7, 9, and 12. But, this is devastating to the father. And we're going to give the mother visitation. It devastates them when they just break them up. And it's really because judges have discretion and they also have immunity. So no matter what they do,
Hmm.
there's no options. Well, guess what? That's not necessarily true. You file judicial reviews on the judges, and you
Hmm.
bring your fight to federal court if you have to, because if
Hmm.
they're breaking laws in state court, you can get justice still in federal court. It's a whole different world. And if you're indigent, you can file for free. And there is law libraries, and you can find advocates, and you can call our office at 702-323-4477. And that's I'm a Survivor of Domestic Violence Inc. in Las Vegas, Nevada. You can email us and put a contact that you need help. You have a situation, you may have to file a federal lawsuit because you're being wronged. So you can contact us on our website. I am a survivor of domestic violence.org, or call 702-323-4477. Our email is support at I'm a survivor of domestic violence.org. You can also get us at I'm a survivor of domestic violence at gmail.com. Back to you, Marianne.
uh, I believe in getting an attorney outside of your city. That's something that I wish I would have done, and I think I do. I think I do mention that in my book. And after I had won in Superior Court on the child support, because the judge gave me an imputed figure. You know how they dream up a
Oh
figure?
my God, Marianne, so well.
And so I couldn't get through to the judge. I had started reading transcripts on TikTok. That one transcript I also put on my YouTube channel, Slam the Gavel. But anyway, she only wanted to hear what happened from the last hearing, which was probably 2 weeks ago, to this hearing right now. Has anything changed? It's
Mm.
like, did you read what happened to me? No, they don't. They expect, even though the opposing party cost me my career as a registered nurse, she expected me to pay. She thought I was making 4,000 a month. Well, I'm not making anything now after he cost me my job,
Mm.
and they don't care. My mother would say, "Well, they can't get blood out of a turnip. You'll want to make a bet."
Yes, exactly. They start using the contempt. Well, you're going to be held in contempt and all this other stuff. It's
Right.
crazy, and it's sad. It really is sad. And I mean, I can visionize what you went through, and I know your story, and it's hellacious. I mean,
Mm.
we're not alone. People say, "Oh, well, you're not special. This doesn't happen just to one person." I don't like hearing that. I know that everyone knows there's multiple women, multiple cases, thousands, tens of thousands, millions of cases nationally and globally. But guess what? It doesn't make it right. And we need to keep fighting to bring awareness through our foundations, our advocates. We have to keep on it because eventually there'll be new bills. We're going to be putting a bill before the Senate. It's a survivor bill. That's, I think we talked about that. And the survivor bill, I've tried twice. I'm going to try again, and it's basically first offenders who abuse children and their mother and the wife. It's basically you're going to get a year mandatory and a year on probation, and you have to do anger management and drug and alcohol testing if drugs or alcohol is involved. The second one's 5, and actually in the United States, if you do the same crime like violent domestic violence, which is a felony, assault and battery, intent to murder, assault and battery with a weapon or something, it's serious. It's a felony. But the third time, as you know, strike 3, you're out of the United States, you get life. You get up to 20 years. And this is one thing that if you start giving sentences out, Mandos, like when they came out with the I remember way back, I think in the 80s, when they came out with the mandatory 1 year for a gun, and there was 5 years, and then you get life. When you hear those numbers, you will adhere to the awareness that you're going to do time and you're locked down for a Mando 1, 5, or 20. So, and this is what we need to advocate for, and that's what I'm going to do. And that's why my foundation, I would say I am a whistleblower, and I will continue to be a whistleblower for the wrongs that are being done to children and women in same-sex marriages. And I'm not going to stop. So that's why I did this podcast.
Okay, so we're going to get into the next question because we are running low on time.
Okay.
Okay.
How does trauma from domestic violence manifest in the long term, and what types of therapeutic approaches are most effective in helping survivors heal?
Well, it can manifest if you look at the ACEs score. I know they use that on children, but it also for adults as well. It can manifest in heart attacks, which is what I had. It could manifest in, other diseases. The body keeps the score. There's a book called The Body Keeps the Score. And there's no way to control the stress sometimes.
Right.
So sometimes you have to go seek, hopefully a good doctor that can help you with this. And some people are embarrassed to go on medications, but I was glad I did because I had to go on Klonopin. They were making me so stressed out with anxiety. I didn't want to, start crying all the time in court. I just did not want to do that. And so when I had my heart attack, the cardiologist walked in and he said, "Oh, it's a good thing you were on that Klonopin." And I said, "Why?" And he said, "Well, Klonopin has a property to break up plaque in the heart." He said, "Your heart attack would have been far worse if you were not on Klonopin."
Oh,
It's like,
wow.
oh, that's good.
Yeah.
That's good, so, God works in mysterious ways. Um, and I think what also helped as which is therapeutic is speaking out. I think people should try to get on people's podcasts and talk and share the story that
Yeah.
might help someone else down the road. And also, what I'd also encourage is people to report their judges for bad behavior. You can't really report them and complain about the ruling. You complain on the behaviors, which is what I did with my one judge because
Oh,
she was just out of control. And you may say, well, I complained and I didn't get anywhere. Well, call them up and ask them why you didn't get anywhere. Okay, so for instance, when I went to federal court, the opposing attorney, as I was dropping off exhibits, he hauled me into the boardroom and he said, "I'm going to tell you how this case is going to go. I know both those judges in the federal courthouse, and I'm going to get this case dismissed. That's pretty much how it's going to go." And I said, "Okay, here's your exhibits. Have a nice day." So I went into a notary. I filled out an affidavit, submitted it to all parties. Yes, he got in trouble. Some other female attorney took over.
okay.
But what I'm saying is, you've got to stay on it. In fact, when I submitted his bar complaint, not to the bar, we're in Pennsylvania, so it's a Supreme Court disciplinary board. So they kind of blew it off. And I called him up and I talked to the lawyer there, and he said, well, look, he says, provide more information to us. Give us more to look at. So I did. And that's what got him in trouble.
Wow.
Wow. Right, Marianne? It's crazy. Crazy. That's great.
Yeah, so if people would just, speak out, even at Sam's Club, start
Yeah.
talking to people.
Gotcha. Yeah. Okay, you want to get the last question? You want to move on to the next one?
Go ahead, Sean.
Okay. How can survivors be empowered to seek and engage in mental health support, especially when dealing with the emotional and psychological aftermath of abuse?
Well, like I told you earlier, I was speaking to a psychologist. She was really good. And I think people should talk to people that get it. Don't burden your family members with it because they don't get it and they don't want to hear it. Right? And that's why people say, well, they used to be my friend, now they're not, because they don't want to hear it all the time. I know that's harsh, but you're paying a psychologist, whatever, dump it on them. Have them guide you through it.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of friends that they don't know the ins and outs of all of this Stockholm syndrome, the coercive control, the financial and legal abuse.
Yeah.
And
Okay.
thankfully, the legal abuse is in the DSM-5 as well as child psychological abuse, V995.51 in the DSM-5. So you've got to talk to people that get it and understand it, that can give you feedback, that validate you.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Great. Thank you.
Yeah.
I hope I answered your question.
You did. You did perfectly. That's the last question. So thank you.
Well, thank you.
Well, that was great. You provided us with so much knowledge over this episode, and we definitely want people to find you, Marianne, to get your book and support you. So if you can just let the audience know one more time how they can find you and where they can purchase your books.
Sure, dismantlingfamilycourtcorruption.com. Or if you Google my name, you'll find me. And
Like,
the books are on Amazon.
Great.
right.
Thank you so, so much, Marianne. You were like a breath of fresh air.
Oh, thank you. I hope so.
And I love your Christmas tree.
Oh, thank you.
You're
Yeah.
welcome.
I do too. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any last words?
Well, my last words are to anyone is be very cautious when you marry or if you choose to marry. And when you're dating, you take it extremely slow and that you don't move quickly in relationships. You've got to cool your jets. If that means waiting for you know what for 6 months, that's just too bad.
Yeah.
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 Okay, people are moving too fast, and that's why they find themselves in these situations
Yep.
of family court. It's sad because they weren't told this. Just wait, just wait. Let that mask fall off and see what that person's really made of.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly. Thank you,
Absolutely.
Marianne. Thank you so much for being on our podcast.
Thank you.
Thank you for joining us today on I'm a Survivor of Domestic Violence, Inc. We hope this conversation on mental health and recovery has shed light on the importance of therapy and counseling in the healing process. Healing is not linear, and every survivor deserves the support they need to rebuild their mental health and emotional well being.
Absolutely, Michelle. If you or someone you know is struggling with the emotional aftermath of domestic violence, we urge you to reach out to a therapist or counselor who specializes in trauma recovery. There is no shame in seeking help. Your mental health is as important as your physical health. We've provided resources in the show notes for anyone who's ready to take the next step.
Remember, recovery is possible and healing is within reach. If you're in a place where you feel like you can't take the next step alone, please know that support is available. You are worthy of peace and joy, and you don't have to walk this path by yourself.
Take care of yourself, stay strong, and remember, mental health is a crucial part of the healing journey. We'll be back next time with more important conversations that continue to empower and uplift.
Until then, take care and keep moving forward. You are a survivor.